In success, as in life, sometimes we have to make hard, tough decisions. What to keep and what to throw away, what to focus on and what to let go. The biggest challenges that sometimes we face in business is that we don't know how to prioritize effectively, and it impacts everything. Listen in. Hello, welcome back to the Hello You Show. My name is Jessica Rice, and I am your host. Well, today I want to talk about something that so often we really struggle with, especially when we move into entrepreneurship. Whether you're an advisor, a consultant, a business coach, a life coach, or anything in between. Maybe you're a service provider. Maybe you have a product that you have developed. Most often, when we move into some sort of entrepreneurship, we can start to get lost in all of the details. And the biggest challenge is when we don't know what it is that is actually moving the needle forward in our lives. This can happen in a multitude of ways. We either have so many talents, we're so multi-talented, that we tend to overvalue the talent that we bring, but it's not actually moving us in the direction that we're wanting to go. We spend so much time hyper-focused on making something beautiful or making it intricate or the wording, and we forget that those are not the things that actually generate revenue. The other challenge is that we are only accountable to ourselves. And so in those moments where we don't feel like doing something, well, there's no one there to tell us to keep going. There's no one who sets the priorities greater than ourselves as a business owner. And so I want to talk a little bit about this today because this is the crux of how you build a business so that it's successful versus playing in a hobby. And let me tell you what I mean. When I was in corporate, I remember rising up, and some of those very things that I was doing were actually sales. I spent so much of my time proving myself, sending ideas out, working nights, weekends, early mornings to do whatever it took to make sure that I was being seen, I was visible, that my ideas were crossing the line, and that I was getting recognized within my company. This led to thinking that I had all these talents in various areas, which I did, but I thought that those very talents were going to be the key to my success when I decided to launch my business. Now, the challenge here was I went into executive coaching, leadership coaching. I was helping leaders and entrepreneurs to continue to grow their businesses, but I didn't understand truly selling, how to truly market as a solopreneur. I had spent the majority of my career working in large e-commerce where we had an ads budget and a marketing budget. I had none of those things. And so it required me to get a little bit scrappy. But I didn't know how to be scrappy in the ways that I needed to. I knew how to be scrappy when it came to building a website, getting a logo together, getting my marketing in place, putting stuff out onto social media, even how I could go live. But I didn't really know how to start promoting myself in the ways that were actually going to move the needle. And this is something that I had to learn very quickly and even the hard way. So I hired an amazing business coach, and they started to work with me on my offer, my positioning, what it was that was my unique differentiator in the market. Now, mind you, I thought that I was selling coaching. I thought that I was selling leadership. I thought that I was selling executive coaching and branding. And I really struggled to see what it was that I was doing that wasn't working. What was I doing that was so wrong? I was doing all the things. I was emailing and doing social media and going live and even launching this podcast. But the challenge was that I wasn't looking at it correctly. I was looking at myself like a coach, like so many other coaches who I know who tell me I went into coaching to be a coach, not to go into sales. But here's a key differentiator that I think a lot of us forget or don't realize. All businesses are in sales. All businesses rely on marketing and sales. They might have a talent that they start with. They might have a unique value proposition. They might have all these other things that they bring into the business. But at the end of the day, they're selling the business, their products, all of the services that they bring, and they have to get really good at sales, at revenue generation. Because you're not good at revenue generation, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And so we have to understand the differentiation. I think sometimes we start to have these dreams and we start to think really big, and we can get over the fear part, we can get over the uncertainty, we can get over the anxiety. And then we make these leaps and we don't fully know how to do sales, how to do marketing. And most of us think that this is like, ooh, I don't want to do sales. I don't want to be a salesman. Like it's a dirty word. But the truth is, to do sales means that you are so passionate, that you care so deeply, that you want other people to benefit from the products and services that you provide, that you are willing to go and be disciplined enough to sell. If you're not disciplined enough to sell, then you don't truly believe in your product. You don't truly believe in your service. The other challenge that I started to notice was that I was basing all of my value on my talents. I was basing it on the talents that I had in terms of proving myself in my corporate career, all the talents that I brought with me from a child, my artistic background, all of my creative ideas. And I was forgetting that I needed to be a salesperson. I needed to not be talented. I needed to divorce the idea from myself. I wasn't just selling myself. What I was selling was an opportunity for someone else to achieve their greatest goals. And I had to make a shift in my mindset that it really wasn't about me. So often when we are trying to sell or promote a product or a service that we've developed, we're focusing on ourselves. We're focusing on how we promote ourselves. And most often that's because that's what we had to do in corporate. We had to promote the ideas that we came up with. We had to figure out how to differentiate ourselves from everyone else, from a sea of people in a sea of cubicles. In business is very similar, but now you're in a much bigger ocean. And the service and the product that you're delivering, it has nothing to do with you. Now, even in corporate, most often we're having to think about the customer, keeping the customer in mind. But we can hyper-focus on one aspect or one area. Where most business owners start to get lost is they're hyper-focusing on where they think their talents lie and not on the sales and revenue generation of their business. And so I spent a good portion of my time as a coach, becoming a better coach, getting certified again, getting certified again, finding myself in 5 programs at a single time, learning so that I could provide better value to my clients. And while this was good, this wasn't still opening the doors of revenue because my clients didn't care how many certifications I had. They didn't care that I knew about neuroscience and red teaming and all of the various things that I learned in relation to how to grow a team and keep a team. What they wanted to know was how it was uniquely going to benefit them and how I could uniquely help them. Where was my positioning? It wasn't all of this. It was me all put together. And I had to care less about myself. I had to care less about my talents. And I had to become obsessed with my clients, obsessed with how I could move the needle for them. And sometimes we get really stuck on trying to make everything look good, make ourselves look good, seem like we're so professional, so perfect, the best choice. And all we're focusing on is ourselves, not our clients, not the people who are looking to us to see, are you a good fit for me? And so we have to start thinking differently. We have to ignore all of the old ideas of how we prove ourselves. We need to get over any fears or concerns we have in relation to how perfect we come across. And we have to stop caring about what other people's opinions are about us. And the only way that we can start to do this is by taking better care of ourselves, prioritizing ourselves so that we can then better serve our clients. So what do I mean by better prioritizing ourselves? When I was working my way up in corporate, I thought that working harder, working nights and weekends, proving myself time and time and time and time again was how I was able to become successful. And I thought that that would be a one-to-one translation into my business. I would work extra hours on all of these various projects and things that I found fun and exciting, but truly was really the distraction from the real thing I needed to do: sales, marketing, my business, any action that was related to revenue generation, because that's what makes the world go round. That's what makes our businesses go round. And we all stay in our corporate roles for the same reasons. So none of us are above sales. I noticed also that I started to put my health on the back burner. I started to put fitness on the back burner. I even started eating in ways that I never did before. I started sitting at my desk longer and longer and longer hours, and I started to find myself working more than when I was in corporate. And it was the opposite of why I had left corporate. I wanted time, freedom, flexibility. But what I didn't understand was that if I didn't prioritize the right things, then everything else would swallow it up. There is always competition for your time, your energy, what it is that you bring to the table. So you have to be hyper-focused on what's going to truly move the needle for you. 2 times last week, I sat in different conversations, and then I picked up a book, all of which were talking about the Pareto Principle, something that we're all fairly familiar with. It's the 80-20 rule. 20% of your effort results in 80% of your return. So if you're putting 20% of your effort into something that's hyper-focused, then that's what you're going to receive greater returns around. And so you have to start asking yourself, what is it that you want greater returns around? And what is it that's required to achieve it? Well, number one, I started to realize if I wasn't taking care of myself, I wasn't going to be disciplined enough to do all of the other things that I needed to inside of my business. My clients were going to start to suffer because of that, because my mental state wasn't going to be sharp and on point. And I needed to start showing and demonstrating that I was serious. And that started with me and my self-belief. When we fail to take care of ourselves, when we neglect ourselves, we stop believing in ourselves. We stop being proud. And so I started to take care of myself. I started to work out and eat better and do better things more recently than not. And the biggest shift that I started to notice was that everything else started to fall in line. My mindset, how I felt about myself, my personal belief, even the way that my son looked at me. See, when we have pride in what we do, when we take pride, we have greater self-respect. And when we have self-respect, we're going to show up and do the sales part differently. See, everything goes hand in hand. And so we have to be very mindful of how we manage our time, how we exert our energy, and what we focus on. And if we're spending our time spinning our wheels on all the wrong things, trying to seem perfect, but doing all the wrong things, none of it matters, and it's all a waste. So I say this to you because if you're thinking about taking the leap, or maybe you already have, and you're finding that you're spinning your wheels and nothing's quite working right, or maybe you're just afraid of the risk involved or how to actually make a sale, then I first want you to think about how can you start to focus on communication? How can you start to focus on your client and becoming hyper obsessed with what their results are going to be? And how can you start to take care of yourself so that you can then become a powerhouse in everything that you do? See, it's not all about looks or perfection. It's about owning who you are, honoring who you are, what you've been made to do and why you're created, so that you can take that and bring all of yourself forward. And so until I realized that, I was so focused on all of my flaws, all of the things, and trying to correct those little things instead of looking deeper into what I really needed to figure out. And the other thing that's required then, of course, is discipline. We have to have the grit, the perseverance, the stamina, all of the things that none of us want to do, because it means that we have to be committed, and it means that we have to show up. Most of the time, we don't want to show up, but 90% of our lives is doing things that we don't want to do. The difference is that we're our own boss when you make the leap. There's no one else telling you how to prioritize or giving you a hard time if you don't meet a deadline. The only risk is the prolonged, slow failure that nobody wants to have. So really think to yourself, if you're to show up for yourself every single day, create a schedule for yourself where every day you are doing all the things, you're hitting all the markers, you're saying, okay, I'm showing up and I'm doing sales for an hour, I'm working out, I'm doing these various activities. Once you start to form this into a habit, that's where you start to have motivation, you start to have the confidence, and everything else starts to fall into place because you're not trying to put band-aids over a problem that you think exists, and you're really correcting and working from the root of how your business grows. So anytime that you're considering consultancy, advisory, any one of those things, a brand is incredibly important. But more important than a brand, more important than any of those things, is first how you show up for yourself, how you show up in turn for your business, how you continue to grow revenue-producing activities for your business so that it can start to grow and that you can start to afford greater time, freedom, and flexibility. But until you get those things into place, you're going to continue to feel like you're spinning your wheels, you're trying all the things, nothing's really working, or you're just going to sit there in fear. Take your ownership back. Take your life back. Start to remember all the things that you've done in your life that were hard, that were tough, and you still showed up for yourself. Because that's what you're doing when you create a business. That's what you're doing when you're setting up an advisory. Not only are you creating the life that you want to lead, but you're helping other people along the way to do the same. And that is powerful. Thanks so much for joining me. If you found value in this conversation, please like and subscribe. Share with your friends. Let them know about the show. We'd greatly appreciate it. And stay tuned for next time. Thanks so much. Thank you for tuning into the Hello You Show. It's been a pleasure to have you with us on this journey today. If you found value in our conversation and want to support the show, please take a moment to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd also deeply appreciate it if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also enables others seeking inspiration and authenticity to discover our community. Until next time, keep embracing your story with purpose.